Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. We are here because we want to learn algebra. Today is our lesson number 145. 145. Yesterday, day number 144, if you have watched the video, we did this question here. It is still on the blackboard. I want to quickly go over it, not because it's complicated, but because there was something that I left out inadvertently. The question simply was, we have a room full of n people, E of them are English, F of them are French, G of them are Greek. The question simply is, how many of them are other nationality? Well, the number of people who are of the other nationality is going to be the total number that we have, which is n, minus the sum of the people who are English, French and Greek, E plus F plus G. What I forgot to do at the very end, which we always do, even though here it's not necessary, because it's a very simple question, but as a rule, we always plug in numbers at the end to verify our answer, to make sure that we have in fact the right answer. I forgot to do that yesterday, so we're going to do it here, even though I know it's very simple. So let's make up a number here. Let's pretend that there are 100 people in the room. So n is your 100. Let's pretend that 10 of them are English, 20 of them are French, and 30 of them are Greek. Well, if 10 of them are English, 20 of them are French, and 30 of them are Greek, we have altogether 60 people who are either French or English or Greek. So we have 100 minus the sum of these, which is 10 plus 20 plus 30. And we already know that the answer is going to be how many of them are other nationality. The answer is 40. So this better give us 40, and of course it's going to give us 40 because it's just simply, or you can see it here, 100 minus 10 minus 20 minus 30 does in fact equal 40. Let's see what we have for today. Now, as I already said 2 or 3 times, the plugging in thing that I just did here was not necessary. It's a very simple question, but I did it anyway because I want you to get in the habit of doing that. Always, you must always verify your answer by quickly plugging in numbers, even if it happens to be very simple questions, because people do make mistakes. Sometimes we make silly mistakes, particularly when the problems happen to be very easy and we get too cocky, we get too complacent, and in our complacency we end up making careless mistakes. Number 145. As I said yesterday, as I mentioned yesterday, today's question is a medium question. Yesterday was easy. Today is medium question because it's a little bit tricky, a little bit more challenging than the one put yesterday. Here's the question. In a room full of n students, we are told, in a room full of n students, we are told that B of them are boys. B of them are boys. B is a number obviously, n is a total number. So we may have a room full of 100 students, of which 30 of them are boys. Here's the question. The question is, what is the difference between the number of boys and the number of girls? That's the question. And for those of you who still do not know, I'm going to put a box around it and I'm going to rewrite it so you can understand my handwriting. This right here is B/W, which means between. Here's the question. The question is, what is the difference between the number of boys and the number of girls? That's all. That's very simple. What's the difference between number of boys and number of girls? What I want you to do is pause the video at this point. Always pause the video. Solve the problem yourself, and once you have the answer, you can resume it. Okay? This is not as straightforward as you might think. It has just one tiny twist to it. So before we can talk about what's the difference between number of boys and number of girls, we have to first figure out how many girls there are. We know that we know that there are B number of boys. If there are B boys, N is the total, and then the number of girls, let's do it here. Let's do it here. Number of boys is B. Total is N. Therefore, the girls, number of girls, must equal the total number of students minus the boys. Total number of students, which is N, minus the B. For example, as I already told you before, for example, if this is total. For example, if there are 100 students in the class, if there are 100 students, and if we are told that B equals 25, if B equals 25 and N equals 100, then there are 25 boys and there are 100 students in the class, 75 of them must be girls. Where do we get 75 from? 100 minus 25, that's all. So now we know how many girls there are. So now we are ready to answer the question. The question is, what is the difference between number of boys and number of girls? We're going to find that difference by, the difference is going to be the difference between number of boys. So here's the number of boys minus the number of girls. There is good, that's your difference. The difference between number of boys is, you take the number of boys, the difference between number of boys and number of girls is that you take the number of boys, which is B, and you subtract from it number of girls, which we just found is N minus B. You open the parentheses, we get B minus and a plus, negative times positive is negative, and we get N, because here is just 1. And here we have negative, here we have negative, so negative times negative is going to be positive, and then B. B plus B gives us 2B minus N. That's the difference between boys and girls, the number of boys and the number of girls. Let's plug in number here to see if it makes any sense. Let's plug in a number here. I'm going to plug in here with the blue marker if you can tell the difference. Let's pretend that we have 100 students in the class. Let's pretend that N is 100. How many boys do you want in the classroom? Let's pretend that there are 30 boys. If there are 30 boys and there are 100 students, the difference between the number of boys, the difference between number of boys and number of girls, well, if there are 30 boys and 100 altogether students, there must be 70 girls right here. Total number, if you're going to pretend, is 100, and the number of boys is 30, the number of girls is going to be 100 minus 30. There must be 70 boys, 70 girls. There must be 70 girls. Therefore, the difference between the number of boys and the number of girls is going to be a negative number. It's going to be 30 number of boys minus the number of girls. It's going to be 30 minus the 70. The number of girls is what I'm calling G right now, which I never introduced here, but that's what G is. This N minus B equals G, which is the number of girls. It is a negative 40. It is a negative 40. The difference is negative 40. This expression better give us negative 40. Let's see if it does or not. 2 times B, which is 30. 2 times 30 is 60. Minus 100. 60 minus 100. What do you know? We get our negative 40. That tells us that this is in fact the correct answer. This expression does give us the correct answer. Not this expression, rather. Expression would have been this part only. Here, what I had in the box before was an equation because of the equal sign there. This expression, 2b minus n, does in fact give us the correct answer. Let's do the same problem again one more time. but we're going to phrase the question a little bit differently. Here's the question. In case you were wondering why I was saving this room here, now you know. Let's do the problem one more time. And this time the question is, what is the difference between the number of girls and number of boys? Again, we're gonna plug in the same number as before. We're not gonna change that. Let's pretend that there are 100 total students. Let's plug in 100 for n. Let's pretend that 30 of them are boy. If 30 of them are boy and there are 100 altogether, and 30 of them are boys, the girls, the number of girls must be 70. Number of girls must be 70. The difference between number of girls and number of boys, this is the minus sign here, would be the number of girls are 70, the number of boys are 30, the difference is 40. Let's see what the algebra tells us. I actually made a mistake. This is something we do at the very end, not right now. We were supposed to solve it algebraically first. I got carried away. So we know the difference is 40 between number of girls and number of boys because there are 70 girls based on what we plugged in here and 30 boys. The difference is 40. Let's see what the algebra gives us. Number of girls, which is G, minus the number of boys, which is B. But G equals n minus B. N minus B. That's what G equals to. The number of girls equal to the total number of boys, total number of students. Number of girls equals n, which is total number of students minus the number of boys. The total number of students minus the number of boys must be the remainder, whatever is remaining, must be the girls. So that's the number of girls, that's what G is. Minus B. Open the parenthesis, n minus B, which is same as n times n minus 2B. Now what did we say the answer was going to be? We said the answer was going to be 40. Let's see if we get 40 here in this expression. If we plug in 100 for n, minus 30 for b, 2 times 30 is 60, this is 100, 100 minus 60, what do you know? Is in fact 40. Which makes perfect sense because if you take the number, if you're talking about the difference between number of boys and number of girls, if that difference is negative 40, then the difference between number of girls and the number of boys, looking at the other way around, has to be positive 40 because the difference is the same. It depends on which one you put first. It makes sense. What else do you notice? What else do you notice in this problem? What happens? What happens? I'm going to plug in a different number here. Actually, I'm not going to actually erase anything because there's too many numbers here and I might forget to erase everything and it will cause confusion. So I'm just going to talk about it. Okay, listen carefully. Let's pretend that there are 100 students. If there are 100 students, and let's pretend that there are 50 boys. Okay, let's just pretend that there are 50 boys. We're going to plug in a new number here for B, 50. If there are 50 boys and there are 100 students, there must also be 50 girls. Now the difference between the boys, number of boys and the number of girls is 0 because they're both 50. Similarly, the difference between number of girls and number of boys is also 0. Let's see what we get here. 2 times B, if B happens to be 50, 2 times 50 is 100. 100 minus the total number, which is 100. 100 minus 100, it gives you a difference of 0. What about here? If B happens to be 50, then 100 minus 2 times 50 gives us a difference of 0. You see? It makes sense. It makes perfect sense. We're going to do the similar problem today. We're going to do a similar problem tomorrow. But the next problem is going to be a little bit more complicated than this one. The one we did yesterday was just a prelude, just to give you the taste of what was coming up. Something like this will appear as a medium question in the exam. But when I say in the exam, I always talk about in the exam. Which exam? In any exam, it doesn't matter. If you're studying for the SAT or the GRE or the GMAT, something like this is a fair game for any of those 3 exams. And it will appear as a medium question. Tomorrow we're going to do a similar question, but it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow on day number 146. Okay? Bye now.